Good morning, everyone. In yesterday's session, we discussed about runners in Spring Boot. In yesterday's session, we discussed about runners in Spring Boot. Can anyone tell me what is the purpose of runners in Spring Boot?
To execute a logic only one time.
Runners are used to execute the logic only one time
starting the application.
when after the application got started. Runners are used to execute the logic only one time after the application got started. Boot supports for two types of runners. Boot supports for two types of runners. They are, one is application runner. One is application runner and the second one is command line runner. One is application runner and the second one is the command line runner. Now, which one will get the first priority? If we have both runners, then application runner is going to get the first priority. So guys, could you please tell me what is the difference between application runner and command line runner?
Only the arguments.
Application runner and command line runner. Application runner will take
and parameters are changes.
Application runner will take application argument object. Application arguments object as parameter. Whereas command line runner will take string args as parameter, which represents source arguments. I have asked you people to go through the differences between application arguments and source arguments. Anybody got the information? What is the difference between application arguments and source arguments? What is the difference between application arguments and source arguments? What is the difference between application arguments and source arguments? Come on, guys. What is the difference between application arguments and source arguments? You have not seen that, huh? Application arguments versus source arguments. Application arguments versus source arguments. Application arguments in Spring Boot. Application arguments and in Spring Boot. Pass and read command line arguments in Spring Boot. Command line arguments in Spring Boot. Inject application arguments. Define Spring Boot application arguments. How to get command line arguments in Spring Boot. So like this, a number of options are there. Right now, I'm using Eclipse to set and run configuration. Spring Boot run arguments. Person name is equal to first name. Okay. This code works just fine. At the value person.name. These are application arguments. Application arguments. You need to add a configuration property person name by using @value annotation. Application arguments, option arguments, optional names. So using this application arguments, you can get all the optional arguments, all the optional names, and all the source arguments. Everything you can get from application arguments object. Source arguments, that means only that command line arguments that you are going to get from that command line runner. So if you just want to read the only command line arguments, then you can go for command line runner. If you want to read all the arguments, application argument, that means VM arguments and the command line arguments, then you can go for application arguments object. So when to go for application runner or command line runner? If you want to read all the arguments like VM arguments plus command line arguments, then you should go for application runner. If you want to read only command line arguments, then you should go for command line runner. Got it? Now, so in the last session, we have seen how to create those runners also. Guys, how to create those runners? How to create those runners?
Implement that runner.
Come on.
Whatever
Implement that interface.
That respected
Yeah,
interfaces.
we just need to implement a interface. Okay.
Okay.
Now my app runner implementing application runner. That is a predefined interface that we need to implement, and we need to represent this class as a Spring Bean. Now, so like this, we are implementing those runners in our project. We are implementing those runners in our project. My app runner.java. My app runner.java. Sorry. Then we need to go for my cmd runner.java. My app runner.java, my cmd runner.java. So we can have both runners also in the project. We can have both runners also in the project. So first application runner will execute, then command line runner is going to execute. So if you want to read both VM arguments and command line arguments, then we can go for application runner. If you want to read only command line arguments, then you can go for command line runner. So here we got the aux object, aux dot. Multiple methods will be available in application arguments object. Right, see here, non-optional arguments, optional names, option names, get source arguments. Can we get the source arguments also by using application runner?
No, because it's used on command line runner.
No. See the method here. Get source aux available or not. That means full control you will have when you go for application runner. You can get non-option args, you can get option names, you can get option values, you can get the source arguments also when you go for this application runner. If you go for command line runner, you can get only source arguments. Interface. Interface is to indicate that a bean should run when it is contained within the application context. Bean that should run within application context. What is this application arguments? This also interface. Provide access to the arguments that were used to run a Spring application. Whatever the arguments are available, you can read this. What are the source arguments? Return the raw unprocessed arguments that were passed to the application. Option names. Return the names of all option arguments. For example, if the arguments were -44 is equal to bar, debug would return this value. Option names. Okay, contain options, option values, non-option argument, return the collection of non-option arguments that are passed. Okay. So whenever you are running a Java program, you can pass some arguments to the application. Those arguments are called VM arguments and command line arguments. If you want to read those arguments, then you can go for this application arguments object. Okay. And when this run method will be called, guys?
When you start the application.
When this run method will be called?
When we start the application.
Start application executed.
Once the application started, before terminating that, before completing the run method execution, these runners are going to be executed. So could you please tell me what kind of logics we are going to write inside the runners? What kind of, can you guess any use cases to use runners in the real-time project?
To clean the database when we start our application.
Right. Use cases to go for runners. Use cases to go for runners. So first use case, load the data into cache. Load the data into cache. If at all you want to use cache in your application, how many times you will load the data to cache? Only one time you will store, or every time you will store the data to the cache?
One time.
Only one time. Only one time we are going to store the data into cache. Okay. Yes. Now cleaning tables in the database. Cleaning tables in database, or inserting data into staging tables or static tables, inserting data into static tables, etc. Or sending email once application started. Sending email once application started, etc. Can I consider Can I? Can I consider all these things are the use cases for runners to use runners in the project?
Yes.
Can I say all these in all these scenarios we can use runners?
Yes.
Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Yes, yes,
Yes,
we
Yes,
can.
sir.
Yes, sir.
Good.
Sure.
So, anybody having any questions related to runners now? I hope
So,
all of you, good with the runners. Now, what is a banner in the Spring Boot, guys?
When you start the application, display the logo, Spring Boot logo. Then
Logo will be printed. So, what are the modes of the banner?
3 modes, sir.
Remote console off.
console,
log.
off and log.
Yep. What is the mode off?
The banner will not be printed on the
Disable the
console
banner.
if
Good.
the mode is off.
What is the default mode of the banner?
Console.
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 That will print on the console. Can I change the banner text
Yes.
Yes.
We can.
by using banner.txt file?
TXT file.
Banner.
Yes.
Where should I keep that banner.txt file?
Application.properties.
Resource folder.
Under resource folder.
Resource folder.
Under resource folder
Resource.
and application properties.
In the resources folder, I need to keep a file with a name called banner.txt. In the text file, I will write the ASCII text to print the banner on the console. Is this clear for everyone?
Sir,
Yes, sir.
sir, I have one question, sir.
Yes.
Sir, the predefined banner actually we can off now by using that properties file banner hyphen mode equal to off. That will stop the predefined banner. Okay.
Yes.
And even also we can create our custom banner also. But my question is, is it possible to even off that customized banner also? Is there any process?
If you keep mode is equal to off, it don't print either predefined banner or customized banner also, right? If you don't want to stop the banner, if you want to print a custom banner, then only you will write the banner.txt. Suppose if I set the mode is equal to off, nothing will be printed. If I set mode is equal to off, nothing will be printed. No? Predefined will not print, user defined also will not print.
Okay, but if you have a banner.txt, if you the mode is off, then it will display that.
It will not print. It will not print.
Sir, it will display customized banner, na, sir.
Why the mode is already off now? Why it will print customized banner?
But the mode is off. That is for predefined, na, sir.
Nothing. That not for predefined, for everything. Mode
Universal.
Okay.
The alert predefined code directly terminating if the mode is off.
We have seen the code, right? So first it will check the mode. If the mode is off, it will not load your banner.txt file also.
Okay.
If the mode is not off, then only it will load your banner.txt file.
Okay.
Yeah, got it?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
All right. Right, guys. So with this, we completed our discussion related to run method and boot application process. How?
Yeah, Ashok sir, I have one doubt.
Yeah.
In application runner and command line runner, I want to execute command line runner first.
Order. There is a annotation called @order. You can set the order for that. There is an annotation called @order, sir. You can specify order for this. Now, so you want to say, no, sir. If you have both command line and application runner only will execute first. If you have two command line runners, if you want to execute one first, then you should go for @order.
Sir, we have to specify any value in that if we have both.
Yes, sir. You have to specify 0, 1, first preference, second preference, like this. You have to specify.
Okay, sure. Okay.
Sir, component we are using for class as a stereotype annotation.
To represent this as a Spring Bean, so that IOC container will load that class.
Okay, while represent a class, we need to component.
Yes, right. All right, sir. Fine. So with this, we got the clarity. How? Please mute your mics. With this, we got the clarity how our application is running. How our application is running with the Spring Boot. So with this, we completed our basics related to Spring Boot, how Spring Boot applications are working, how auto wiring is happening, how dependency injection is happening, what is banner in the Spring Boot, what is runner in the Spring Boot, what is Spring Boot application annotation, what is run method in the Spring Boot. Okay, so as of now we completed below concepts. We completed below concepts as of now. They are: first one, what is Spring Boot? What is Spring Boot? And we completed Spring versus Spring Boot, Spring Boot advantages. We completed our Spring Boot advantages, Spring initializer, Spring project, Spring Boot application creation, Spring Boot application creation, then start class in Spring Boot. What is start class in Spring Boot? We know. What is Spring application.run method? Spring application.run method @ Spring Boot application. Also we know. @ Spring Boot application annotation also we know. Then we discussed about what is auto configuration. What is auto configuration? What is component scanning? Component scanning, base package naming convention, base package naming convention, base package naming convention, auto wiring, dependency injection, auto wiring, dependency injection. Here we covered about setter, constructor, and field injections. Setter, constructor, and field injections. Then we discussed about stereotype annotations. Stereotype annotations. In the stereotype, we discussed about @ component, @ service, @ component, @ service, @ repository, We covered @ configuration. Then we covered @ bean, component, service, repository, configuration, @ bean annotation also we covered. After that, we covered about banner in Spring Boot, banner in Spring Boot. Then we covered about runners in Spring Boot, Okay, so auto wiring also we covered. Then we discussed auto wiring. After that, we discussed about @ primary, and we discussed about @ qualifier. Guys, so these are the concepts that we covered so far as part of our 07 SBMS. We completed below concepts so far in our SBMS, 07 SBMS. What is Spring Boot? How Spring Boot is different from Spring Framework? Right. What is Spring Boot? Spring versus Spring Boot, Spring Boot advantages, boot application creation process. Right. Then start class in Spring Boot, application.run method, boot application annotation. What is auto configuration? What is component scanning? Base package naming convention, auto wiring, primary, qualifier, dependency injections. In the dependency injection, we covered 3 points: setter injection, constructor injection, setter injection, constructor injection, setter injection, constructor injection, and field injection. Setter, constructor, and field. Then stereotype annotations. Okay, then banner in Spring Boot, then runners in Spring Boot. So guys, did we discuss all these concepts in the class? Did we discuss all these
Yes,
concepts
sir.
in the class?
Yeah.
Anything that is
Yes.
missing from this?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I hope all of you comfortable with all these concepts, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Very good. Now, guys, with these concepts, now I am going to give you one small requirement. Good. Develop standalone application using Spring Boot. Develop standalone application using Spring Boot. Develop standalone application using Spring Boot to read data from CSV file and store that into database. Develop standalone application using Spring Boot to read the data from CSV file and store that data into database table. Store that data into database table using Spring JDBC. Develop a standalone application using Spring Boot to read the data from CSV file. Develop a standalone application to read the data from the CSV file and store the data into database table using Spring JDBC. Okay, now CSV file. I'm going to give you some products information. 101, comma, mouse, comma, 100. 102, comma, keyboard, comma, 500. 103, comma, CPU. This is 2500. 104, monitor 2000, something like this. Now CSV stands for comma separated values. CSV stands for comma separated values. Now I want you people to develop one application which is used to read the data from a CSV file and store that data into database table using Spring JDBC. So CSV stands for comma separated values. I have a file. That file contains the products information. Every row represents one product record. Every row represents one product record. I want you people to develop one boot application. It is a standalone application to read the CSV file data. And every row is one product record. That record should be inserted into database table. For that, we need to write a persistent layer. For the developing persistent layer, I want you people to use Spring JDBC. I want you people to use Spring JDBC. So that is the requirement. Guys, please read this requirement once. Develop a standalone application using Spring Boot to read the data from CSV file and store that data into database table using Spring JDBC. Guys, all of you understand my requirement? Please
Yeah.
speak.
Yes, sir.
Are you able to understand my requirement?
Yes, sir.
Right. How we are going to do this? Let's observe. I am giving the structure of the project also. You just need to implement the logic for that. Here, I am having my boot start class, guys. Boot start class. Then I will write one service class here. Okay. Then we will write one repository here. Then our database will be available here. This is our database. This is our database. And this is our repository, where we will write the persistent logic. This is our service. This is our service.
Repository is nothing but a DAO.
DAO, exactly. Now this is my start class. This is my boot start class. Application execution will begin from boot start class. Right. Now, inside the project, I have one file which is called products.csv. In this file, data is available. Now, here, multiple rows will be available. Every row represents one product record, which is separated by comma separated values, which is products.csv is the extension. Comma separated values will be there in that file. Products.csv is the file name. Products.csv is the file name where the data is available. Okay. Now, my service class is responsible to read the data from this products.csv file. My service class is responsible to read the data from this CSV file. My service class is responsible to read the data from the CSV file. Okay. And the service class is responsible to insert the record into table by calling repository. Repository will talk to DAO. I mean, repository means DAO will talk to database to store the data. So where you need to write the persistence logic now? Where we should write the persistent logic?
Repository DAO.
Persistence logic should be available in the repository. Here you need to write your persistent logic, database logic. Persistent logic. Persistent logic we should write in database. Now, service logic, that means business logic we are going to write in service layer. Business logic we are going to write in the service layer. All right. Now, after inserting the record into the database, repository will return some response to service layer. Repository will return some response to service layer. Now, who is going to call the service layer method now? Who is going to call the service layer method?
Boot start class.
Start class. Boot start class is going to load this service class bean, and it is going to call service class bean method that will return some response to the start class. Okay. Now, end user is going to execute this start class. That means he is going to run our boot application. When end user run the boot application from the start class should talk to service class. Start class should talk to service class. Service class will talk to file and will read the data from the file. What type of file it is? It is a CSV file. CSV stands for comma separated values, where the data is available in the form of rows. Every row is separated by comma. One comma represents one field value. Okay. After reading the data from the file, service layer will talk to repository. Repository contains the persistent logic. Repository contains persistent logic. That persistent logic is used to interact with the database to perform the operations. All right, guys, look at the application structure. I hope you understand how many classes that we need to create and how to perform the operations. Got it? Guys, come on. Are you able to understand what is our requirement and how our application should be implemented? Today, I want you people to implement this requirement. Tomorrow, I will ask you people to share your screen and you should execute this project and show me that. If you don't know how to work with Spring JDBC, you just search in the internet how to insert the record into the table by using Spring JDBC. You have to come up with your own solution. Everything you can find in the internet, but you should have the right skill to search it. I want you to search it and complete this task. Tomorrow, randomly, I'm going to call you people name. Suppose I will call you Satish. Could you please share your screen? Then you have to share your screen and you should show me your project. Proper coding standards should have, proper naming convention should be there, proper comments also should be there for your code. If anybody not completed the assignment, I will remove you from the class. As the admin, I have the option to remove you from the session. Okay. So initially I told you, if you join in the Ashok IT for the courses, you should spend some time for the practice. Okay. This is the assignment that I am giving you. If you don't complete this assignment, I'm not going to allow you to attend the class. I'm not giving you any rocket science application. I'm not telling you to implement. When I click a button, one rocket should go. That is not our requirement. Our requirement is read the data from the file and store the data into database table. That's it. It's very simple LKG standard requirement. Not even LKG, nursery standard. Do you understand the requirement? I have given the structure also how you need to develop this program.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Anybody having any questions on the requirement?
Sir, here entity class no need to write.
We are using Spring JDBC, right? For that, entity is not required. Normal query you need to execute. When you go for ORM, then entity class comes into picture.
Okay.
Sir, where we need to put product.csv?
Just keep in the project folder. Wherever in the project you keep it and you read it. Tomorrow I will show randomly. I will call the people names and I will ask you to share your screen. Your project should be running. Which database you will use? It's your choice. Either you go for Oracle or you go for MySQL or PostgreSQL, whatever you want. You can use it. I don't have any issue with that. But I want to see the code. Your application should up and running. It should insert the record into table.
Sir, product.csv like we use like properties file like that.
I have already given the file, man. This is the file. This is the data in that file. You just need to paste this data in that file.
No. Okay, we want to give in the properties file, sir.
No.
That's what you were saying.
Separate file. I have given the dot properties, or I have given a separate file for that.
Okay.
It's a separate file where the data will be available. You need to read that data and you need to store that into the table using the DAO logic.
Okay, sir.
Good.
Sir, actually, I've actually gone through this type of requirements. So I've used Spring Boot batch. So can I use it then?
You can use it, sir. If you are good with that, you can use it. I don't have any issue.
Okay, sir.
In the real time also, we will have such kind of requirements where we need to read the data from the file and we need to store into the tables.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Any other questions, anyone?
Sir, regarding runners, can I create a jar and put it into Unix box and call that jar with some parameters?
Yes, you can do that, sir.
So from some shell script.
Yes, you can do that. Runner will execute.
Okay, thanks, sir.
Runner will execute.
Hello, sir.
Yep.
Actually, you have mentioned here from service after that repository components, but you didn't mention the controller component from where exactly I start my.
Man.
Sir.
Apply your brain. What I told you.
Standalone.
Standalone means controller will be there or controller will not be there.
Will not be there. Okay.
Yep. It is not a web application to have a controller.
Okay, sir.
Just a standalone application, main method. It will run from the main method. Just you need to call the. I have given the application structure also. Start class will call the service class. Service class will read the data from the file and will give the data to the repository. Repository will insert the data into the database. I want you people to complete this task before coming to tomorrow's class. Okay. And guys, I need small help from you people.